Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
I am here with AJ Wilcox, who is a mastermind of LinkedIn advertising. AJ, how are you doing today?
Doing awesome, Blake. Thanks for having me.
We also have spoken on the Yours in Marketing podcast. I recommend that you check that out. It's a little bit longer of a conversation, whereas this is going to be quick, compact, and tactical. So you're going to get everything you need to know right now about LinkedIn ads. Well, maybe not everything. You should probably go check out more of AJ's stuff later on, but you're going to get a lot of really valuable things, some quick questions, some quick answers. So are you ready, AJ, to do this?
So ready.
All right, let's get into it. I want to start out with, there are a lot of people that probably wonder, are LinkedIn ads for me? So who should be using LinkedIn ads versus who should not be using LinkedIn ads?
Well, what you need to understand here is that LinkedIn ads are pretty expensive compared to especially other social channels. And because of that, what it means is either your sales process has to be more efficient or you've got to have a larger deal size on the back end to make up for those higher costs. So what we find is if you're in business to business, you're doing lead gen, you want to make sure that the lifetime value of your client is somewhere around the 15K mark. Yes, there are people who are making it work with lower lifetime values because they're more efficient on the sales side or whatever, but you want to make sure you've got a high lifetime value. If you're on B2C side, like higher ed works really well, recruiting people works really well on LinkedIn, and you don't necessarily need the same lifetime values over there. You don't have to walk someone through a complex funnel.
For somebody that's looking to start LinkedIn ads for their business or their company, wherever their role may be, would you recommend them just getting their feet wet and actually going into the platform themselves? Or do you think they should just straight up go to somebody to help them out?
So I betray myself a little bit with this answer because I'm very much a self-starter. Like I'm the kind of guy who'd say, like, leave me alone. I'm going to go and mess around until I figure it out. But I will say, because LinkedIn is expensive, it means every mistake that you make becomes an expensive mistake. So if I could give my own self-advice, I would say, hire an agency or a specialist, someone who knows what they're doing first, get it off the ground. And then that way, if there's not success, you know that it's not because of some issue with the platform. You know, it's because the offer and the audience weren't a good fit. However, if you try it on your own and it doesn't work, you never know if it's because your company wasn't a good fit or whether you just didn't know what you were doing.
You've mentioned a couple times now that LinkedIn ads are really expensive compared to other social advertising. Do you have a cool hack, just one thing maybe that listeners could do to potentially lower their cost on LinkedIn ads?
Yeah, I think especially with sponsored content, that's the ad format that shows up in the news feed. LinkedIn's average click-through rate there is about 0.4%. So that's what most people are getting. But what we've found is it's really not hard to outperform that average, and even sometimes significantly. So if you're bidding cost per click, LinkedIn's going to say, we're not going to give you traffic unless you're bidding, at least $6, $7, $8, $9. But if you have an ad that you've put out there that's getting over a 1% click-through rate, which is outperforming the average by 2.5 times, you can bid CPM instead of CPC. And all of a sudden LinkedIn's like, oh yeah, we'll give you infinite traffic because we make money every time we show your ad. And you're getting clicked on 2.5 to 3 times more than the average. So your cost per click just got cut into a third.
So making the switch from CPC to CPM,
yep,
which is cost per thousand.
Yes.
It's not cost per thousand, which it doesn't make any sense. Cost per meal, I guess, but
yep,
just weird.
Yeah, see, it's easier to say CPM than it is to say cost per thousand.
Yeah.
But I wish it would be CPT. Like the cost per mil is a little outdated.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, what's the single most important thing that makes an ad superior versus something that would make an ad mediocre? Is there a small fine line there of something, a quick change that would make it not be mediocre?
An ad really has to contain three things, and it has to be one thing. So it has to stand out. That's what it has to be, is like different from the background. And then it has to contain three things: why you should pay attention, what the value is to you, and essentially the name of the asset. So if you're using this formula where you're making sure to include all of those things and realizing that people on LinkedIn are on a mission, like flowery language and I guess just trying to be cutesy and all that doesn't work very well. Just get right to the point. If you combine cutting right to the point with those things, chances are you're going to have a really high performing ad.
So when you're talking about the ad standing out, would you recommend making it as bright orange as possible?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, well, first of all, both of us are ginger, so we understand the value of orange.
That's right.
But even to a better perspective here is that LinkedIn, their color palette is all blues, grays, and whites. And we know the opposite on the color wheel from blue is orange. So if you can get as much orange in there as possible, it's the same formula as Facebook. Get orange, pinks, purples, greens, yellows. All of those will definitely help your ad stand out.
See, there was something to that joke.
That's right.
It wasn't all bad.
That's right.
Do you personally use any third-party tools right now that help you with LinkedIn ads?
Well, there are two third-party platforms that I find really valuable right now. Number one is AdStage.io. They have an API. So if you don't have API access to LinkedIn, you can use theirs. They also have some bulk tools like triggers, monitor my account if something happens, then lower bids or raise bids or pause or whatever. So that's cool. There's also a tool called shape.io, and they're probably valuable even if you're not using LinkedIn ads. They just have API access to all the different ad platforms, and they track your budget. So you can set a rule that says, alert me if I get halfway through the month and I've spent over half my budget, or just let me know what I'm on track to spend and shoot alerts to me. It's a really valuable tool for that.
That's all I have for the tactical questions, but I have a couple of other questions that I do want to ask you really quick.
Bring it on. I'm ready.
Have you thought about doing a podcast yourself?
I have. Yeah, lots of times. I really love podcasts. The only thing that's keeping me up here is that I don't know that there would be very many people interested in a podcast all about LinkedIn ads. And I feel like if I had to go a branch higher and just talk about social ads or just talk about B2B, I'd probably blend into the crowd a little bit. And so it's still something I play around with and I like the idea of, but I've got to convince myself that it's worth my time.
I think it's worth your time. I think you should do it.
Well, thank you.
I think you'd be great.
Well, thanks. That means a lot coming from you.
Yeah. Let me tell you.
Because it's a lot of work, right?
Oh, yeah. It is. But I think ultimately, like we've talked about this as well on the other podcast, is when you're writing a blog, it's so much more difficult than if you're just recording or, speaking out loud. Having a conversation like this is so much easier and can still provide a lot of SEO value if you get transcription. So I think that it's ultimately for me makes a lot more sense than writing a 10,000 word article. Maybe I can just record for a half hour and that's about 10,000 words. So that's easier for me, for sure.
And then pay rev.com $1 a minute for transcription and boom, you've got SEO.
That's right. Or you can do YouTube and then you can go through everything and fix all of the horrible mistakes that YouTube makes.
That's right. My YouTube, for some reason, isn't translating my stuff to closed captions. So I have to go and do it myself. It's terrible. So anyway, I'm using Rev now.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for coming on. I'm glad we were able to keep this short. That's kind of what I'm shooting for the SEM series.
Nice.
Let's give you another chance to plug B2 Linked here.
Cool.
On the SEM podcast.
Awesome. Y'all ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Well, B2 Linked, we are the ad agency that literally LinkedIn ads is all we do. So if LinkedIn ads are important to you, then we want to be there to help you out. Definitely fill out a form at b2linked.com and you're not going to get a sales experience. You'll just get directly to me and I won't sell you. So, ask any question. I'm totally transparent.
Awesome. Thank you, AJ. This is AJ Wilcox. Follow him on LinkedIn. He does do things organically on LinkedIn too. It's not just advertising. You're on Twitter as well. You're maybe not as active. Are you very active on Twitter?
Dude, I love Twitter. It's just, it's a network that you don't get a whole lot of engagement on because someone's got to be watching, but Twitter's still my favorite social network out there.
All right. Follow him on Twitter. Follow him on LinkedIn. Follow him on MySpace. Everywhere.
love it. Hey, thanks, Blake.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.